So what we're talking about today is the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern brick and stone depots. And by me, I was here the other couple months ago talking about my personal layout, modeling Michigan City, member of the Porter County Model Railroad Club there in Valpo, a director-elect of the New York Central Historical Society, and its modeling chairman. So kind of my modeling interest is strictly New York Central, or a lot of my work is New York Central, but modeling interests include the Nickel Plate, the South Shore, and the Monon, as well as the New York Central. Let me minimize this here so I can actually see my screen all the way. I always like to take time and thank people who documented and shared their experiences with people that weren't around here. I was born in the late 70s, and a lot of these photos are taken in the early 1900s. So a lot of the stuff was really, a lot of the old neat stuff, I think, was gone by the time I really came around with my camera. So the people that documented and especially shared the information, thank you. All right, what are we going to talk about? Well, the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern had two really distinctive, different types of brick and stone depots. One I call the tall dormer, and then the other one I call the short dormer. So we're going to look at the short dormers. And there was a large and small variant, and then other depots that had very similar architectural details. And then we'll get into the HO scale dormer kit from the N-scale architect, and then I'll show you how I hacked and sliced that kit to another to represent a different version of the depot. And when I say depot, we're talking about structures, and that differs from stations because stations are locations along the railroad, not the structures. So if you say, typically if you say a station, you're thinking the location. Could be a town, could be a sign in the middle of the woods somewhere at a junction that was just a switch in the middle of the woods. So that's a station where the depot is actually the physical structure. But the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern stretched from Buffalo to Chicago with extensive branch lines in southern Michigan and then a branch in western Pennsylvania. So all these dots here represent the location of brick and stone depots. The reds are large, the orange is small, a yellow is a variant, and the blue dots are the high dormer. And there was only 5 high dormers. And all these are built between 1895 and 1905. So these are replacement depots from the original, probably wood depot that was built in the 1850s and 1860s when the line was built. Well, in addition to the Lakeshore Michigan Southern, the Lake Erie and Western, which was under New York Central control until 1922, and the nickel plate control after that, had 3 of these depots. And we'll look at each one of those in a little bit. And you tell me that the nickel plate road, the New York, Chicago, and St. Louis, which stretched from Buffalo to Chicago, they were also controlled by the New York Central up until about 1905. And one of these standard depots also appeared on the nickel plate. So the high dormer depots, this one just happens to be in Wauseon, Ohio. As we can see here, it's a brick and stone depot along the main line of the New York Central, Lakeshore, Michigan Southern. But when I say high depot, the picture here on the left, the dormer above the operator's bay is really tall. And let's see, some of the other details here, it's got a brick band, a stone band around the top of the windows. And then on the end windows and above the operator's bay center window, there is a stone arch. So that's kind of identifying these high dormer depots. And then the roof supports here is a single piece of lumber that juts out from the side of the building. So that's kind of just some of the details on the high dormers. But we're going to look at these low dormer details. So we can see here that the dormer above the operator's bay is a lot shallower than the high dormer. So that's kind of the distinguishing feature. Nope, other way. So just the almost the iconic, I would say, distinguishing feature here is a center arched window and then two smaller square windows on either side. And some of the depots had louvers in the rectangular windows on the side. So just a little detail that varies between depot and depot. As we can see here, the roof brackets here are made up of three pieces, one vertical against the brick, one horizontal across the eave, and then a perpendicular or an angular one that connects the two. And you can see that there's no stone window band that runs the entire length of the, around the depot, where there's just stone around the windows and then below the windows and then in the corners. So the large and the small depot, the top photo is from Sturgis, Michigan. The bottom photo here is from Lafayette, Indiana. You can tell that they're pretty close to identical. Well, if you look at it and start counting windows, there's two pairs of windows on the lower one on either side of the large, or two pairs of windows on each side of the operator's bay on the large depots, where there's only one pair of windows on either side of the smaller depots. So that's kind of a quick breakdown. Other than that, they're just a little bit bigger version. On the end, again, Sturgis and Lafayette, the small depot only has a door and a baggage door, or a window and a baggage door on one end, whereas the larger depots have a center baggage door and a window on each side of the end. Then on the opposite end, the larger depots have a three bank window, where the smaller depots have two single windows. And then on the street side, you can kind of see it, not really quite well, but the smaller depots, since they're narrower, have a little bump out in the center between the two entrance doors. You can kind of see a stone vertical piece here next to the door. This is bumped out about 8 inches, where in the larger depots, it's wider, so that bump out's not needed, and that's where the two restrooms are located. So a floor plan here from Stryker. You have a general waiting room on the left-hand side. The street side is general waiting room on the right-hand side. The street is on top. The track is on the bottom. Ticket office and operator's office in the center. The two restrooms in that little bump out area, and then a men's waiting room on the left-hand side, and a baggage room on the far left-hand side. So this is typical floor layout of all the depots except for one, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So the first one here at Westfield, New York, 50 miles west of Buffalo, almost to the New York-Pennsylvania state line. Some of the old vintage postcards here, 4-track main line in front. And I'm not sure when this photo was actually taken. I think it's early 1900s, because if this photo to the next photo here, that whole lawn got taken up by the Jamestown, Westfield and Northwestern Interurban Railroad. So that was their northern terminus of their the traction line. It shared the same depot, and the Chautauqua traction also had a line out front here, and you can see an interurban car in front of the depot, a New York Central train on the left, and then the streetcar all the way on the right. Again, another streetcar photo here of the Chautauqua traction, and the Jamestown, Westfield, and Northwestern would be on the other side of the depot here. Another Chautauqua traction view. Another one, this happens to be the Empire State Express with a lounge car, New York Central lounge car tacked onto the rear end. 1946 photo. And the interurban there, the Jamestown's got a freight motor, which I find interesting, parked there next to the depot. 1968 photo, and I'll get to the details here once I get to a recent photo. This one here if you remember, that had two pairs of windows on either side of the operator's door. But because of the interurban, they extended the baggage room here. So we have the one pair of windows, but then we have this extra long baggage section with a single window baggage door and another single window. And in the end is the same. So this one's a little bit bigger than all of the other depots. This depot still survives along the lines now CSX. And it is used as a art gallery in Civic Center. Operator Bay has been restored and kind of used as a tourist information center, a small museum, and as I said, an art gallery kind of fills in the space. Our next depot here is in Northeast.
Owner,
Yes.
the type of thing that he's talking about, you know, the station, and it will be one of these, and also the one in Lafayette.
What was that? Okay. Next one here, Northeast Pennsylvania, which is really in Northwest Pennsylvania. But the little section of Pennsylvania that juts out into the Lake Erie, it's in the northeast section of that. So again, another vintage postcard here. This one happens to be a small dormer. And as I forgot to mention, back at Westfield, the street side here has a dormer on the street side, which is kind of a rarity for all these. Most of them did not have a dormer on the street side, just only on the track side. But Northeast Pennsylvania, another vintage postcard. Again, the New York Central's Empire State Express passing with the streamlined Hudson. And that one's a corrugated, not the Vanderbilt or the Dreyfus Hudson. It's an earlier version of it. 1971 photo. And again, this is the short version of it with a single pair of windows on each side of the operator's bay. 2007 photo, and you can see that Northeast Pennsylvania is just right next to Erie, Pennsylvania, where a lot of the General Electric locomotives are built. So they have a small museum there and a layout and it's used as a museum currently. And they have quite a few General Electric locomotives that were built in the neighboring city. So New York Central 2500, a U-25B, one of the South Shore 800 class, 802 is at this location as well. Next, Conneaut, Ohio, 115 miles from Buffalo. Another vintage postcard, and Conneaut is a large depot, and should say that some of these depots had the baggage room on the left, some of them had them on the right, and there's no really rhyme or reason why I've been able to find out why they built the baggage room on the left or baggage room on the right. But again, this one has no dormer on the street side, so kind of a basic depot or basic typical details, I would say. Vintage postcard here with I guess it's a Ford on the side, and then the same view. Oh, I messed up the slides. A 1960, I think 69, 70 photo of it. Current day, 2010, if you call that current day. And again, this one's used as a railroad museum. And it's home to nickel plate Burke 755. So that's there. Moving on to Geneva, Ohio. Another vintage postcard. Finding vintage postcards at depots were pretty easy online. Again, Geneva is a large depot. We can see it here. A 1906 dated postcard. Bringing a lineup of vehicles and a horse-drawn wagon. (1968), and unfortunately, this depot was razed. It's one of the only ones that were razed. There's about three of them off three or four that were razed out of the 15 or so. So quite a bit of them still exist. This one, however, does not. but it's a typical large depot. Franklin, Pennsylvania, on the Oil City branch, kind of west central Pennsylvania, I would call that. Another vintage postcard. It's again a large depot. The baggage room is on the right, and it does not have a street side dormer. So the only street side dormer we found so far in our looking was at Westfield, New York. Another vintage postcard showing the other side. 1968 Chuck Bowie photo from the New York Central Archives. 1999 photo. And you can see here that it kind of got added onto. Currently, it is a daycare center. I think the next slide here. Yep, this is taken from Google Earth. You can kind of see the original depot right here in the middle with its dormer on the one side. They had another building added to the left and to the right, and it used the same style windows, which I found kind of interesting, you know, when they rebuilt the whole thing. But this whole area here is enclosed in a fence for a daycare center. So interesting reuse of a old depot. Delta, Ohio. So now we're west of, there's no depots of this style between Toledo and Cleveland. So now we're west of Toledo. Delta, Ohio, a 1907 postcard. It's a small depot of the size. Again, no baggage, or baggage on the right, and no street dorm. So 1969 photo. 1985, and it's still railroad use in this photo. Around the edges, it looks a little shabby. And then when I visited in September 2019, it was in pretty sad shape. So I just did a little walk around here. The right-hand side. The baggage end. The rear side, and you can see the little bump out for the restroom here on the street side. Next one here is Stryker, Ohio, 338 miles from Buffalo.
Hey, Seth, can I ask you a question quick?
Yes, Ken.
Back to Delta.
Delta, yes.
Is that on the New York Central Main that goes through Chesterton?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
And is the Wauseon one too?
The Wauseon one is too.
Okay, they've got a nickel plate caboose on the property.
They have a B&O caboose on the property.
Is that what that is?
Yes. At Wauseon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a B&O caboose.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
I thought it was...
Wauseon is a high dormer depot, so we're not really looking at it, but Wauseon was the one that I used as an example to show the differences earlier.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
that's a B&O caboose on the same line that goes through Chesterton.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Stryker. And as we can see here, the main line of the New York Central, or as they called it, the airline, which is a reroute from the original route, came up through southern Michigan and then down and met the main line here at Elkhart on the left-hand side of the screen. But the airline was a 1880s reroute that included the fifth longest section of straight track. I think it's 68 miles from Toledo all the way to Butler, Indiana. So these are all the new main line is, or the airline as some people call it. So that's where we were talking, where Ken was asking about. So eventually it will come through Northwest Indiana, through Elkhart, South Bend, LaPorte, Chesterton, and then on its way to Chicago. So this is all along the same line. So Stryker, another vintage postcard. Again, no street dorm on the one side. The baggage dorm, or the baggage room, is on the left, and it's a small depot, only a paired window on each side. 1967 photo. And this depot got some love by the community. So it got restored, new roof, and it's right there. You can see the rails in the bottom part of the photo. And just a quick walk around. Typical yellow brick is kind of an oddity that this one was built with. Most of them were built with a red brick, but I have a feeling that the bricks were locally sourced. So if the general contractor that built the depot had a brickyard that he usually bought from, that was the color of the bricks. The baggage end, street side, and then we'll move up to Lenawee Junction, or some people might call it Lenawee or Liwani. I've heard it pronounced both ways. But the junction here, the original main line came up from Toledo and then turned west to go through Adrian, Hillsdale, and then back down into Indiana at Elkhart. And then there was also a line that went from Monroe, Michigan on Lake Erie straight west. And then the original line continued all the way up to Jackson. So it was a junction between two different, well, really operated as two different branch lines in a main line. But originally, if you looked at it, it was the crossing of two lines. A vintage 1908 photo here. And the main line to Toledo is off to the left there. Elkhart and Adrian and Hillsdale is behind us. And the train on the left is an next train to go to Monroe, Michigan. So it was kind of a transfer point on the New York Central system. Another vintage postcard. You see the mainline train on the left. This view looks east, so that train or mainline train on the right, a Clinton branch, or sorry, not a Monroe branch train on the left, and then the track that leads off to the right will eventually take you up to Jackson, Michigan. 1910 photo, and you can see the difference here between this one and this one. It's the same. We're still looking east. There is an operator's bay on both sides of the depot, which I found very interesting. You can kind of pick it out, make it out here in the center of this photo. And it's this, we're looking the same direction here. And here is another operator's bay on would be the north side of the depot. And what we see here is where these three gentlemen are standing. This is a steam trip, early 1950s Jim Findley photo from the Doug Leffler collection. This train here is coming from Jackson. We're kind of looking west here. Usually on either side of the operator's bay is the entrance door. So on the right-hand side of the depot, we see the paired window, the entrance door, the operator's bay, and then here, just a paired window. So Lenawee Junction only had one waiting room, where all the other depots, except another one that we'll get to here in a second, had a single waiting room. So kind of makes this one a little stand out, but it really stands out because it had operators' bays on both sides.
Where was the restroom?
The restroom? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. This is the only photo I was able to find that showed the east side of the depot looking west, and most of the depots had a window on each side. This one only had the each side of the baggage door. This one only had a single baggage door. Now thinking about it, where the restroom was, it was probably a privy outside somewhere, in my guess. So I don't know. The depot shown here about 1975, boarded up. Nope. Oh, I hit home, not page down. Give me a minute. We're gonna. Shown in 1976 in poor condition, and it has since been raised. This is a Google Earth photo. So to the lower right is the line toward Toledo. To the right, or sorry, to the left is Elkhart, Hillsdale, and then a Y connection to take you up to Jackson, Michigan, and then the branch to Monroe, Michigan actually breaks off here on the left-hand side of the map and then follows the road, and there has a diamond right here next to the road and follows the road east. So Lenawee Junction at one time was a large transfer point on the New York Central's western areas. Next one, Sturgis, Michigan, kind of closer to the division area. Again, a vintage postcard shows a small depot with the baggage room on the left-hand side. Again, no door. Back to Lenawee Junction, did not have a dormer on either end. You know, had a operator's bay on both sides, but no dormers. So interesting setup for that one. Sturgis, a typical small depot with the baggage room on the left. Another vintage postcard. I don't remember the date on this, but probably early 1900s. And the signal out there, you can see it on the left-hand or the right-hand side of the screen. That's not a block signal. That is a manual block signal, kind of similar to a train order signal. But how this branch line was operated was either a go or stop. You can pass this or not. So not a train order signal, but a manual block signal is how this branch was operated. This view in Sturgis, the line crossed the Grand Rapids in Indiana that came out of Grand Rapids and went down to Fort Wayne. And there was also another New York Central branch line coming. So this view is taken from the tower looking west. So a little handcar shed, a section house in the foreground, the interlocking signal, the semaphore, and then in the background there is the depot. 1970 photo. 1984 photo. And this depot actually got jacked up and moved a little bit. It was moved from along the New York Central to along the Penske's Grand Rapids in Indiana division. So if you go there today, you can see the track right in front of it, and that's the old GR&I track. They moved the depot right from a block off the main street right to the main street. So if you come in on I think it's Highway 12, you come into Sturgis and you cross the GR&I, and there's the Lakeshore Michigan Central brick and stone depot right there in front. And it today houses the local history, or a walk around real quick using red bricks. No dormer on the street side. And it's a local history museum. So here's the railroad portion of the local history, and the early settlers portion of the local history museum. Little closer to home, White Pigeon, Michigan. Vintage postcard here. It shows a tile roof, which is makes it stand out a little bit. When the conductor told the engineer to run into the depot and grab the orders, he did not mean take the engine with them. So I believe this was a 1909 photo, a little mishap in front of the depot. And a 1970 photo that shows it in poor shape with the windows boarded up. 1984 photo, about the same. But this one had some love too. So the city owns it, I believe, and it's been restored, or a new roof, and been it's a civic center, I believe, now. But if you see here, the two different color bricks, yellow on the bottom here and on the right, and then a kind of a yellow gray for the main part. And I believe that the whole main front of the depot here was rebuilt with a different color brick following that accident. And like Lenawee Junction, this one only has a single waiting room. So you can see that there's no entrance door to the left side of the operator's bay there. The baggage room, and you can see where the yellow brick, which I believe is original, and in the small area down here below the on the side here, it's got that new colored brick. And this one also differs a little bit because the below the window, below the stone on the windows, it's not full stone, there's brick. So it's brick and stone below the windows. And this is the only depot like that one. Quick walk around showing the street side of the depot. You can see that just a single window here on the baggage, and then no second waiting room on the, excuse me, would be the left-hand side of the depot. We're looking from the street side back south here.
I notice another thing is detail is
Yep.
some of them have smokestacks or chimneys and some don't.
I think most of them did at one time. You can kind of see it here on the
Yeah.
on the
It
but-
must have gotten removed in the no, it was still part of it was still there in that photo.
this is 1970. I don't think you can see it. It may have fallen down. You know, you can't really, or that may have been a new roof that was added onto it in this 84 photo. But I think that at all the vintage photos I've seen, I think all of them have a chimney, a brick chimney, and then that may have been removed when the depots got care and love in the later years.
Central heating and air.
Yes, I think you're 100% correct. And a view from the other side, looking back the other way. Mishawaka in the deep, or we're finally in the division, had a depot. If you're familiar with Mishawaka and wondering where's the depot, now, if you look straight across the right-hand side of the photo, that is the freight house. So I don't know if the Model Railroad Club's still there in Mishawaka or not, but that the freight house housed a Model Railroad Club and a hobby shop a couple years ago, and the depot used to be directly across the tracks. Another vintage postcard. This one is let me find my notes here. Left-hand baggage, and again, a no street dorm. So every depot so far did not have a street dorm except for Westfield. A South Bend History Museum photo. A 1953 Eugene Van Dusen photo. And you see the freight house there on the right-hand side of the photo. 1963 John Strombeck photo. And fortunately, just after that, about 1970, the depot was raised. Indiana Harbor, again, a junction point on the New York Central, on the main line. And then, as some people call it, the Egyptian line, but the line that came up from Danville and went eventually all the way down to Cairo, Illinois, broke off from the main line here. So this is a large depot again, with a left-hand baggage. See the baggage in here. The street side with the baggage in toward us. And the depot is here on the left-hand side of the screen, and Inland Steel Mill is there on the left-hand side. So the track in the far right is the curve to the Danville branch, as some people will call it, or the Cairo line that heads south. And the four tracks kind of in the middle, there's the New York Central. The tracks next to the pole line there is the B&O, and then under those goofy looking high tension towers is the EJ&E. So you had a total of 3 lines or 4 lines. The Indiana Harbor Belt used part of the branch that went off to the right. So 4 different railroads came through here, but the depot was just right in front. 1954 Eugene Van Dusen photo looks west towards Chicago. And then a Google Earth. So where does this place? Well, if you take Klein Ave, and before you go over the new bridge, if dump you out right, the Inland Steel administration building is right down here in the bottom right-hand side, and then a Y to either go from the Cairo line left or right, and then the depot sat right here in the middle. Again, now we're leaving the former Lakeshore Michigan Southern and going to Hammond, still on the west side, west into the system, but this is on the nickel plate line, the New York, Chicago, and St. Louis. And you can see here the replacement, as I said before, these were replacement depots. And on the right-hand side is the old depot and the new depot on the left-hand side. You look at it quickly and it's like, no, that's not the same depot. Well, they had canopies added on both sides. So if you take the canopies out, you have the same depot. And here's the other side. And this one's dated 1912. 1950 photo, some interesting details. The freight house on the right-hand side with a boxcar, a crossing watchman's elevated tower on the right-hand side, and then the a nickel plate Burke pulling a train in front of the depot here. 1976 photo shown in poor shape, and I think this is the last photo I have. This depot has since been razed. All right, Lafayette, Indiana. As I said before, the Lake Erie and Western ran from Sandusky down through Muncie, across north central Indiana, all the way to Peoria. And it was a New York Central property till 1922. So Lafayette also was the Lake Erie and Western and the Big Four line, for our New York Central line from Cincinnati through Indianapolis up to Kankakee, where they had trackage rights into Chicago over the Illinois Central. The two ran jointly from Altamont, which is on the southeast side of Lafayette, to Templeton, which is about 20 miles northeast of Lafayette. So the two, I have it highlighted there in green, the two ran consecutive, both the nickel plate, or the Lake Erie and Western later nickel plate, and the Big Four, later New York Central. 1908 photo, I believe. It's a large depot showing the other side. 1971 photo, I believe that's the Amtrak Floridian making a stop in Lafayette. And this is the street side. If you remember that they had the two restrooms, and there was two high set restroom windows on the street side. Well, this one has a center entrance door that leads up the center of the depot. It's got the street side dormer, and then the restrooms are here on the other side of the entrance hallway, one on the left and one on the right, with large windows. In 1994,
That picture also showed the louvers in the square dormer windows.
yes, they did. So I really didn't take account of which ones had it, these louvered windows, but thank you for pointing that detail out. 1994 was part of getting the Monon out of 5th Street in Lafayette and eliminating, I think it was 28 grade crossings on the Wabash. They decided to reroute both railroads, and part of the Lafayette railroad relocation project was moving the depot about 3 blocks north. And at the time this project was winding down, I was a television news photographer in Lafayette and did quite a bit of stories with the railroad relocation project. So being a Purdue alum and a Purdue family, Purdue Pete there is joining a couple kids and moving the depot on the right-hand photo. And these came from the Journal and Courier, which is the Lafayette newspaper. Again, this shows its present location, the rerouted Wabash, Norfolk Southern line, and then the CSX single track along the rerouted Monon. And the Wabash River is about 50 feet just outside the left-hand side of the frame. You see the depot up there on an elevated platform. Amtrak stops 3 times a week on the old Monon. And the plaza in front of the depot is kind of a civic plaza. They have concerts and different community events, as they like to call it, in front of the plaza, or made a plaza for community events in front of the depot. So just a quick recap. I don't think we need to go over these left side baggage, right side baggage, but Northeast Delta, Stryker, Lenawee Junction, Sturgis, White Pigeon, and Mishawaka are all the small depots. And Westfield, Conneaut, Geneva, Franklin, Indiana Harbor, Hammond, and Lafayette are the large depots. Now get to some of the variants here. Ashtabula, Ohio, shores of Lake Erie, 128 miles from Buffalo. Kind of can see here that it kind of represents it, and it's a streetcar in front. If we look at it, it has the same roof brackets. Instead of paired windows, all these are single windows. It's got a little bit larger version of the dormer on the front of the operator's bay, and it's kind of stepped out. So it's got the same brick and stone construction that we were looking at other ones. It still has the same construction details, but this is just a larger depot. And it had a separate baggage house on the one side, or sorry, express house. That sign says American Express above the door there. Another vintage postcard. You can see that the front here, the center of the depot, this is the street side, really juts out from the I guess the wings, as you could call it, on this one. Excuse me. And because it had a separate express baggage house, see no, different side, sorry. I'm not sure about the windows. See, 3 individual windows is here instead of a bank of 3 windows. (1969) photo of it. Not sure, looks late 70s maybe, judging by the vehicles. 2010 photo. And unfortunately, nope, another 2010 photo. And it was at this time railroad used with the windows boarded up. And unfortunately, in 2018, it met the bucket of an excavator. Tipton, Indiana. On the Lake Erie and Western, the main line ran again from Sandusky to Peoria, but they also had a branch from Indianapolis up to Michigan City, and the two crossed at Tipton. So this one has a bank of 3 windows on the one side, and it's got the standard window, baggage door window on the other side. But instead of paired windows, this one has 3 single windows. So it's kind of a mid-sized depot, not a large one, not a small one, but kind of between the two, but single windows instead of paired windows. Other than that, all the other details are pretty much the same. Another vintage postcard looking, this one looks east. This one looks west, and the baggage cart here, you can kind of see the tracks in, next to the baggage cart. That is the Michigan City to Indianapolis branch. And the train on the right-hand side of the photo is on the main line between Sandusky and Peoria. And this depot actually had a street side dormer. So you can see it here, and the track side is on the right-hand side of the depot. A 1940 photo. I thought this was a little bit later. And the depot still stands. Railroad use, Norfolk Southern. Just a quick walk around. This is the street side of the depot, or sorry, the track side of the depot. We're looking back on the street side. I don't think I have another photo, but if you were talking about chimneys, we can see definitely here a chimney next to the dormer. And then in the later photo, the chimney should be here, but it's missing. So with, I guess, central air conditioning, or modern heating and cooling devices, the chimneys
Yeah, the
were
air,
one
the air
thing to go.
conditioning unit's right there in the corner of the building.
Right. Yep. Sure is. Okay, Elkhart in the division. Well, you think of the depot here. No, Elkhart doesn't fall under these standards. Well, it does. If you look at the windows and look at the design, it's got the same roof brackets, the same windows with the stone around, trim around. Yes, this is Elkhart. If you're there, you're like, no, that's not Elkhart. Well, this had a separate express building with a canopy that connected the two, and the express building is no longer there. I believe this is about a 1950s photo, so that express building was gone since then. But the street side of the depot, this large arch way into the entrance, if you look up at the dormer, it's a little bit different, but it still has the same characteristics of the other dormers, just a little bit spread out, I guess. But the windows still have the stone around the windows.
What was
I
the
did a
second
little
floor used for?
railroad offices. What offices in there, I don't know. But I think currently the Elkhart Chamber of Commerce uses it along with Amtrak in there. And then on this end of the depot, I'm not sure what is in it, but I think there's at least 3 businesses that are using the depot now. The track side here. Another view of the track side. The street side. And then in Bloomington, I threw this one in here. Bloomington, Illinois is also on the Lake Erie and Western, but it's also on the Peoria and Eastern, which ran from Indianapolis to Peoria, another New York Central property. You look at here, well, you see the typical dormers on top of the roof. This one had 2 of them, but below the roof, it's a totally different depot. No stone around the windows, no stone below the windows. The only reason why I put it in here is the dormers are identical to the other designs. So this view looks west, and the one track here on the left is the nickel plate Lake Erie and Western, and the track on the right of the photo here is the Peoria and Eastern. So the 2 ran side by side through Bloomington. Nickel plate Burke coming through. I think that's a Mike. Yep, a Mike coming through town. Not sure of the date, but probably early 50s, late 40s, and the depot is boarded up here. So another shot of it. And then the New York Central Historical Society commissioned a kit from the N-scale architect of the large version of the depot. I was not directly involved with the design of the kit. I have a few words, changes and stuff, but I'll keep those for now. But as the manufacturer, the N-scale architect, the kit is in HO, and I believe they do have a N-scale version. But you open it up and it's a box of laser cut wood. So when it builds up, this depot is 25 inches long. It's a large depot and about 10 inches wide. So it takes up quite a bit of real estate on a model railroad. And in the 3rd quarter 2020 and 4th quarter 2020, New York Central Modeler, which is the free e-zine publication, a quarterly publication from the Historical Society, I talked about how I sliced and diced it. So we have the outline here of the depot, and the depot is based on the Lafayette depot because those were the drawings that we were given. So it's got that center entrance and a dormer on the street side. So the top photo here, or the top is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to remove the dormer on the street side and then kind of just shrink it a little bit. So as I found out that the stone depot on the corners matches the stone depot or the stone details on the edge of the windows. So I could just shrink it in a little bit and kind of make it work. So, and then also the windows here for the bathroom on the street side, I wanted to convert those to doors and then rebuild the little bump out for the bathroom on the shorthand side. And then the rail side of the depot, kind of just shorten it around and didn't need to do any kit bashing to the depot. And then on the ends, we had a 3 bay window or 3 section window and then just squeeze that down to a 2-section window. And then on the baggage end, kind of just squeeze everything in together. So kind of just squeezing a little bit, pushing here and there, and rebuilding the bathroom area. So that was the plan going into it. The bathroom here, I don't know why I stuck this photo in here, but you can see the bathroom bump out here, kind of that, especially on the left side here, you kind of encroaches onto the door. It sticks out about 8 or 10 inches. And then it's got 2 raised high windows for each of the 2 restrooms. So I kind of just sliced and diced it. The first cut was definitely the hardest. This kit is $180 something. I was given the kit as a project to see if I can make it work. And the first cut was definitely the hardest because of the price of the kit. But as you can see here, that after the second cut, third cut, and so on, it kind of came together. So put together, that's what it looks like. The roof from the kit did not fit very well. So I built a whole new roof out of basswood, measured all the angles and glued it all together and put it together. And that's kind of how it came together. In 2019, this is, I believe, October 2019, the society had a mini convention in Cleveland, and I stopped at the depot in Delta and shot a picture. 2 months later, we all would know what stuff hit the fan. So that was the last time that we met in person, almost more than 2 years ago. So I have the model depot and the real depot that it kind of represents together. A couple photos. The signboards on the side were strip styrene that I put together and made up a couple different ones. So showing northeast, change the signboards around, and we have Mishawaka. So with this depot, the original plan, since the kit was donated to me, and then I donated my time to the New York Central Historical Society in building the depot, I donated the kit back, the finished kit, back to the society, where I believe it will be auctioned off at the convention in Albany in May. I believe that's the current plans for it. Last I knew, the depot was still at the headquarters in Cleveland, awaiting sale. So that kit is available. That if you have any interest in it, I can definitely inquire. But I'll go ahead and take any questions about either slicing, dicing the kit or the prototype depots.
Is the brick paper, or is it
The
how is that
brick
done?
is it's not Holgate and Reynolds. It's similar. It's a pressed styrene, a stamped styrene that is then laser cut, and it's got an adhesive backing on it, so it's peel and stick. It's offered by the N-Scale Architect in, I think they are 12 by 18 sheets. They're pretty large sheets, but they have different bonds. So like the American bond, it happens to be 5 rows of brick long side, and then a row of brick on the inside or short side. So different brick patterns. They have about 6 or 8 different brick patterns, but it's a styrene brick that is stamped kind of like your old Holgate and Reynolds brick. And then the core of the depot is laser cut basswood, and then the stone is actually, it seems like it's a really thin homosote that was laser cut, and the homosote's got a peel and stick backing. So once the kit went together pretty easy once I figured out all the slices and dices. But if you're to build the kit straight out of the box, how they tell you, it goes together quite easily. But I've used their brick material for a couple other projects that I have coming up here that I haven't published yet. But I kind of like it. It cuts a lot easier than the Walther's brick sheets, and just like 20,000, 30,000 styrene, and you just glue it to a core or styrene or wood core like you would any other building that you would scratch build. So I kind of like their brick product.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Seth, I can fill in a couple gaps on what you were commenting on Mishawaka and Elkhart.
Okay, go ahead.
Mishawaka, you said that the Railroad Club was in the Freight House.
Correct.
And unfortunately, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I don't remember exactly when, the St. Joe Valley Mountain Railroad Club was given like 2 weeks notice that they lost their lease, and the Mountain Railroad, which was beautiful, is history.
Yes.
So that's all gone.
Yeah.
Over in Elkhart, the station is 2 stories. I think the upper part is still meeting rooms, although they could be rented out for offices. But the Michiana division has held a couple of conferences there a few years ago, where we had some of the clinics in the National New York Central Railroad Museum across the tracks, and then some upstairs in the station. And but every time a train came by, the clinics would stop, everybody would run to the windows with their cell phones and cameras and take train pictures. So it was hard to keep the clinics on schedule.
Right. So
downstairs,
oh, go ahead.
it's an unmanned Amtrak station these days. The city opens it up at train time most of the time, I think. But you know, it's mostly offices on the first floor of various organizations.
Yeah, but they're all civics type, or they're all city or what's the community service based organizations, correct? I think the whole depot's owned by the city.
The depot's owned by the city, as is the Railroad Museum across the street.
Correct.
And the Council on Aging has the east end and has some of their vans that they use to haul people around, filling up most of that parking lot. A couple years ago, they took away the 2 tracks closest to the station and rearranged all the other tracks. So it's different than in your pictures, and they put in a new platform, probably a 1/4 mile long, out by what would have been the 3rd track originally.
Right.
But there's still 3 mainline tracks going through there.
Correct. And the New York Central, National New York Central Railroad Museum, which does not have a connection to the New York Central Historical Society. They're two different groups. That is housed in the old Freight House, so directly across the tracks. But yes.
Right.
All right.
And
Anyone
Virtual
else?
Railfan has 3 cameras
Yep.
in Elkhart, if anybody's interested too.
All right.
All right. Well, that was a great presentation, Seth. Thanks for all the detail.
Yeah, no problem.
Are there any other questions? We have
B&O, the B&O caboose at Wasion
Yes.
is marked Lakeshore, Michigan Southern, which even adds more to the confusion.
Yes, it is.
You know, I swear that thing was painted nickel plate one time.
I'd have to. I know I have a photo of it. I'm not going to try to find it.
Well, we've gone to Wasion to the tractor show for
Yep.
about 25 years.
Yeah.
And we go downtown for dinner at night, and I'm sure that thing was painted nickel plate. I really am.
It's a possibility, but it is a screaming B&O. I think an I-5 class.
Right.
have to-
Yeah.
Get out my B&O diagram book, but it's definitely a B&O caboose.
Yep.
All right. Well, next week we have Lloyd Kaiser is going to present his presentation from Collinsville from last year. And so we're looking forward to that. We were able to get him online last week, and we kind of had a dry run over the weekend. And so we'll look forward to that. If anybody else is interested in presenting in the coming weeks, let me or Ron know, as always, and thanks for coming. Have a great night.
See you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again, Seth.
Thanks, Seth.
Bye.
Thanks, Griggs.